Ed can tell you that.
Participant.
Under reactions at the bottom, it says react, I think,
Yeah, it's the heart.
It's the heart. Oh, react. Yeah.
and there should be raise hand, clap, and whatever else you need to do.
Ah, there we go. Okay, Joanne. So I'm going to do a something. Um, I'll put something up there when somebody in the room wants to
Okay.
has their hand up
And
or
then
wants
you
to
can
say
call,
something.
and then you can call on them, and then you want to put your hand down too, because if you don't put it down, it stays up.
I got to do everything around here.
I know.
I can do that.
All right, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to Humanists of the Treasure Coast. Another beautiful Sunday in Florida. My opening words are this. I used to think that the worst feeling in the world would be to tell a terrible truth and have no one believe it. I have learned it is worse when the truth falls not on deaf ears, but on receptive ones. It is one thing to listen, it is another to care, and yet another to act in time. This is by Sarah Kendors from Hiding in Plain Sight, The Invention of Donald Trump and the Erosion of America. Announcements. Our Humanist Happy Hour for March is going to be this coming Thursday, March 12th, from 6 to 8:30 at Harry and the Natives. That's a musical bingo night, so it's a lot of fun. 11910 Southeast Federal Highway in Hope Sound. There's plenty of parking there, so it's a nice place. Save the date items. We have a few of those. The first one is the Sebastian Earth Day Festival being held on Saturday, April 18th at Riverview Park. So we're looking for volunteers to help staff that. After the fair, we're going to have a Humanist Happy Hour at Paradolia Bar and Restaurant, which is right around the corner. At 712 Cleveland Street in Sebastian. So the festival goes from 9 to 3, and then the happy hour starts after the festival is over, after we pack up. We just go over to the Paradolia. What a weird name for a bar. You can hardly say it. I can hardly say it. And the other event that we have is the Treasure Coast Pride Fest, at which we are a sponsor this year. So we're going to get a lot of publicity around that. But that's going to be on April 25th, the following Saturday. That's from 10 to 6. It's a little bit of a longer day. But again, we're going to ask volunteers to help staff the booth. And you can sign up for either one of these events by going to events on our website, humtc.org. There will be a No Kings rally on March 28th at Fort Pierce City Hall, which is on the corner of US 1 and Orange Avenue. That's going to be from 2 to 4 in the afternoon. There's plenty of parking there. Bring your signs, bring your friends, bring your voice. On March 29th, Sunday, that's a Sunday, after our regular program, we're going to have our annual meeting. It's going to be delivered in the form of a brief PowerPoint, after which we're going to have opportunities for members to ask questions, make suggestions, give the board feedback. I'm going to be dialing in from Tucson on that Sunday, but should be just the same as dialing in from Connecticut. But I think we're in the snow. I'm going to be in a different time zone, so I have to really watch that, because Arizona does not do daylight savings time, just to confuse things more. So that's it for announcements this morning. Our Humanist Secular Moment this morning is being provided by our host, Alex Gialosis. Alex, you're muted.
Unmute. I'm trying to learn all these things. I plugged into my computer this morning to make sure that this all worked. First off, in the room, we have John and Diane, Captain Paul, Evelyn, Al Hall, Drew, Barry, Francis, and Liz. Did I get everybody?
You.
And me, and Alex is in the room. Scoot over so you can't see the back of my head. For my humanist secular moment this morning, ChatGPT was a big help, because what I did is I got up and I checked my emails, and I saw I had one from Joanne, and in there was a reminder that when I host the meeting here at the facility, that I do humanist secular moment. So luckily I know how to use AI and ask the right questions and juggle it around a little bit. But so this is my attempt at a humanist secular moment, tied in with the Boston Tea Party, which is the theme of our discussion today. And I want to stress that I'm looking at this from a humanist perspective, but it's also that doesn't matter what your political persuasion is, a lot of people are feeling the same things, whether you're on the right or the left in these days. In December of 1773, a group of American colonists quietly boarded 3 British ships in Boston Harbor and dumped 342 chests of tea into the cold water below. By morning, the harbor was filled with floating tea leaves. This event, which we now call the Boston Tea Party, is often remembered as a dramatic act of rebellion, but it was really about a deeper principle, that people should not be governed without having a voice in the decisions that affect their lives. The colonists were protesting taxation imposed by the British Parliament, where they had no representation. Their message was simple but powerful. Legitimate government must be accountable to the people it governs. From a humanist perspective, this moment highlights something important about human progress. The protesters were not acting under religious authority or claiming divine approval for their actions. Instead, they were acting on their own reasoning and fairness, representation and justice. They believe that ordinary people have the right and the responsibility to question authority when it becomes unjust. Humanists hold that ethical decisions and social progress come from human experience, critical thinking, and our shared concern for human well-being. The Boston Tea Party reminds us that democracy is not something handed down from above. It is something that is built and protected by engaged citizens willing to speak up and participate. And that brings us to today. We live in a time when many people feel frustrated with political institutions, divided by ideology, and uncertain about whether their voices truly matter. Public trust in government is often low, and political discourse feels more like conflict than conversation. In such moments, it can be tempting to disengage or assume that the system no longer works. But the lessons of the Boston Tea Party is not simply rebellion. It is civic responsibility. The colonists were asserting that the legitimacy of the government rests on the participation and consent of the governed. Democracy requires citizens who stay informed, think critically, and engage respectfully with those who see the world differently. Humanism encourages us to approach these challenges with reason rather than with anger, dialogue rather than dogma, and commitment to human dignity above ideology. The goal is not to win every argument, but to strengthen the systems that allow diverse people to live together under shared rules. Moments like the Boston Tea Party remind us that the ideals of democracy, representation, fairness, and accountability are ultimately human achievements. They exist because people choose to stand up for them, and they endure only if each generation continues to work. So that's that.
Thank you, Al.
You're welcome.
So on the program committee, when we discussed this topic, and it was actually Tony who came up with the title. It was a question. Is this our Boston Tea Party moment? Because we haven't had a political discussion recently on the Sunday morning meeting. We typically have them on Wednesday, but there's so much going on right now. And for people who watched, and I'm sure many of you did watch, Ken Burns' Revolution series, American Revolution series, and some of the discourse afterward among news media, different media outlets, just reminded us of the sacrifice I think that so many people made to save democracy back during the time of the Revolutionary War. Things that you think about the battle at Trenton and, the Patriots, going to battle with no shoes, running through barefoot through snow, raggedly dressed, and what they endured. And what lessons can we learn from that? So that's what made us think about that period in time. And is this our moment to try to save our democracy, and how can we go about doing that? So that's basically an intro to the discussion. So it would be good to have people weigh in, and let's hear each other's thoughts about your feelings with regard to, is this our moment with the things that are happening not only in our country, but as we're finding out more and more around the world, with threats to democracy. And in the past, I know on the Wednesday night meeting, we have talked about the rise of fascism as a threat to democracy around the world. Again, not just here, but around the world. So that's the topic for discussion today, and I'd like to know who would like to weigh in on that. Who would like to start?
I have Diane in the room. I'm not
All
going
right.
to try to raise my hand here. Just
Yeah, just tell me.
Okay. Great. So a couple of years ago, we talked about Project 2025. That's completed. That's done. Everything on there, they've achieved their goal. Now we're in 2026, and now we're going after the world. What is it? 9 countries that we've attacked or bombed within the year, this past year. And it looks like the only winner is going to be China, while the United States and Russia kind of, get in a firing squad against each other. China's just sitting back and waiting. They have a centuries-long plan. And I'm pretty worried about this, as well as everything that's happening here. That's just what I want to say quickly.
Thank you, Diane. Does anybody else want to weigh in?
I've got Drew in the room.
Oh. Anyway, I'm not quite sure exactly where we're going, but I tell you, I am amazed what this country can do militarily. And our technology is, I'm astounded by it. I mean, I think you have people over in Colorado or something in these think tanks that are directing bombs across the world. And this is not World War II or Korea. This is quite a different scenario. And, I have to think of this. We are actually a warrior country. I mean, we are a country. I mean, Canada isn't out there making war. Mexico isn't. We are. And well, it's our country, so, I mean, it's something you don't usually think of. We think of America as being Pax Americana, for peace and everything. But anyway, our perceptions are changing with what's going on with this administration. Did everybody hear that with our new system? We have a double mic.
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Great.
Drew, did you not trust?
Okay.
Did you not trust me?
You can pass the mic to Captain Paul.
Captain Paul.
Oh, you see the people in the room. That's right.
Yeah, I can see people really well.
Well, I looked at the notice about this morning's meeting, and I have to admit, I remembered very clearly Joanne telling us that 2 topics had been switched, but I couldn't remember what the topic of today was. And I read the title of it much too quickly because I missed the word Boston. Let's not forget that part of why we're where we are now is because of a Tea Party movement, other than the Boston Tea Party. And we are right now probably more under its spell. It was a group of people, possibly an AstroTurf movement, of course, but who didn't like the taxation that was being levied on them and rose up to try to limit the size of the government. and that was a another thread in this whole in our history, another thread where people didn't like the taxes being imposed, and lo and behold, there's a tax cut coming up for everybody. So I think we should keep in mind that our take on the Tea Parties that the U.S. has had is not only not the only, but possibly not even the most common lesson that people have learned from them.
That's a great point because that's what's happening now. The billionaires have cut all of their taxes. And we need the other Tea Party again.
Yeah, not everybody's taxes have been cut.
Just billionaires, right?
Well, the wealthy for sure. I don't know what the cutoff is, but oh, sorry, Juanita, we lost your voice. We lost your sound.
Oh, it probably 200,000 income and up. They consider that.
Those are the people who are getting tax cuts, and the rest are not.
Right.
Gloria.
Well, the wealthy has never paid their full share. Like in Social Security, there's a cutoff at 125,000. If you earn over that, you don't get the same tax as the poor, and that's why they always say the poor pay more taxes than the rich.
And those big tax cuts came about during the Reagan administration, because prior to that, the highest level for taxes were paying 75%. And that got dropped during his administration from 75% down to like 35% to the richest.
Can I just respond to Juanita? Because at the same time, the ones who make more money pay a hell of a lot more for Medicare Part B if they're still working. And so you're saying they only have to pay into a certain amount, but my brother's Social Security payment actually went down this year because his Part B, I mean, ours is bad enough. People in my poor income level they're still taking out something like $205 a month for Medicare Part B, and his is like close to 500. So, there is a little balance for the middle. I think the big tax breaks are for the super millionaires and above. That's all.
Gloria, you have your hand up?
That's a minor tax, though. I mean, compared to all the taxes you pay on April, whatever, 15th.
Gloria.
Yeah, I think what's important for us to do is support young people like Maxwell Frost and David Hogg, and to support those who are offering the kind of alternatives that they're talking about. You may not like all the things that David Hogg is doing, like challenging certain longstanding Democrats like Al Green in Texas, but he's after a transformation of some kind. And I think, when I think back of who were the activists in the civil rights movement, they were teenagers and really young people who didn't have jobs to lose or didn't have a house to lose. And so it was a lot of teenagers. And I think anything we can do to support young people who are going to have to live with whatever the outcomes are of what's happening today is really important. I just spoke to a group on a Zoom. They find me on civil rights websites and other places. And so I speak to classes around the country. And I spoke to a middle school group, and I asked them to give me the questions ahead of time. I don't make speeches. I just said, what do you want to know? And we go through that. And I'm looking at the group, and I can't tell whether they're bored or what. And after the talk, I emailed the teacher, and I said, boy, they look like they were bored. She said, oh no, the principal came to listen, and the principal was in the room, and they were all like stiff and on best behavior, she said. But they enjoyed your talk, and they thought it was relevant to today. And I think that is what's important. And next week I'm speaking to a small group at my local university here. And this group is a group that the history teacher, takes them down to Alabama or Mississippi every spring break. There's a bunch of kids, maybe 10 of them, give up their spring break and they go south to check out civil rights sites and things like that. So like, for me, that is my way to communicate with young people, and then through our grandchildren, to make them realize this is a particular moment. This is a moment in history that you find yourself in, and what are you going to do about it? You know, yes, you can go on the 28th. Yep, we'll all go on the 28th. All my friends are going somewhere to stand somewhere on the 28th. And it's important that you do that. It's important that you do any option like that to come out, or protect ICE people, or go shopping for people who are afraid to go out of their houses. So those are the kinds of things that are available to us. I don't think we don't have the guns, and the guns won't help us. Gandhi told us that. Martin Luther King told us that the guns don't help you. So you've got to find your nonviolent moments and use them.
All right. Is there anybody else who wants to weigh in?
Several people in the room. We got John and Evelyn, I think, right?
Let's go with John, and then Linda, and then Evelyn.
Okay.
It's very important to keep up all the pressure we can on the administration. No King's Rally is a good one. It's nonviolent. It gets people's attention. It provides support for people who are afraid to get out there. And I want to call attention to a couple of things in the upcoming election, the midterms. Trump will do whatever he can, but if he loses Congress in the midterms, then he can do less than he could all by himself. So I just want to point out a couple of the races, maybe a couple of Senate races people haven't thought much about. There's 7 or 8 senators we have a possibility of winning. I like to mention 2 of them. Iowa is one that doesn't get much play. Iowa is lost my train of thought for a second. Iowa, Joni Ernst, the incumbent, is not running for re-election. Trump is quite unpopular there with his tariffs. It's an agricultural state, and the tariffs are really hurting them. And there's at least one person who looks to me like a good candidate. Name is Josh Turek, Turek. He's a member of the state legislature. He's also in a wheelchair. He had spina bifida. This has not kept him from becoming a very good wheelchair basketball player. So, and I looked at his website. He says all the right things. So it's someone to keep in mind. The other one somebody might not think about is Alaska, where Mary Peltola, or I'm not sure exactly what her name is, but she has the advantage of having won in she's a current representative, and Alaska only has one. So she has won in a statewide race, which gives her an advantage over other members of Congress who are running for Senate, because they're only known in their own district. She has already won statewide. So it's just a couple of people to keep in mind. So there's some others, including our own Ashley Moody here in Florida. I don't know how good our chances are there, but something to keep in mind. Ashley Moody was not elected. She was appointed to replace Marco Rubio. So And I think we might have a good candidate running against her. So something to keep
Whitmer.
in mind.
That's Whitmer, who's hoping to have the Democratic ticket to run against her, and he would be an excellent candidate. Okay, we're going to go to Linda now, and then Evelyn. And I do want to mention, though, some good news, and I mentioned this on the Wednesday night meeting. There have been 28 special elections since Trump took office, and the Democrats have won every one of those. 28 and 0. So that's pretty impressive, and it could be a good indicator. Linda, please.
Good morning. I was thinking about the Boston Tea Party and the idea of taxation without representation, and it made me think about the representation part and just recent events of this past week in the Texas primary elections, where in Dallas County, the Republican Party changed this long-time rule that you could vote anywhere at any precinct, and they made it so you had to go to your assigned precinct, and thousands of people didn't get notified, and so they didn't, they were sent to their assigned precinct, and sometimes they got wrong information. A lot of people got in line late. The Democratic Party, I guess, got some kind of injunction to let the polls stay open longer. But I think that kind of thing is really scary to me about, I think there's going to be all kinds of nefarious plans to prevent people from voting and to make it like, there's going to be just sleight of hand type of things going on. I'm worried about mailing in my ballot, even though I know we can in Florida, but you have to, go in and sign up to receive your ballot. But there's just things going on that make me think there's going to be a lot of sort of cheating going on, not necessarily in the voters that vote, but in just preventing people from voting one way or another. That was one thing. And then I was thinking about in Florida, with the legislative session that's going on now, and this idea to phase out property taxes in some form. I guess they would still keep the school taxes, but eliminate some of the other things. And, that money to support police and fire and the other services has to come from somewhere. So it's probably going to come from regressive taxes like sales tax that everybody pays, and other types of fees that are going to be really hard on the lower income people. And so, it's just a, sort of top down dirty tricks going on. And then, I saw a poll this morning where they were talking about, head to head Democrat, Republican, and we're a little bit ahead, but I'm just flabbergasted that only slightly more than 50% of the country thinks Trump is doing a bad job on certain things. I mean, how can 40 something percent or high 30% be okay with everything? And yeah, let's go. I don't know. It makes me kind of embarrassed, to be like, even in my own household, my husband, who some of you know, he's a Trump supporter, but he's not so gung-ho anymore. But I don't know if he would ever flip and vote Democrat or not. But it's just very scary and disappointing, not to mention what's going on the world stage, which is a whole nother thing.
So you have a perfect source of information right in your household. I would ask that man, why do you support Donald Trump? Yeah.
Well, I think, that question has come up a few times, and it's like so many, I think, that are sort of blind followers, right? He's my guy. He resonates with me. He's strong. He doesn't take any crap. It's that kind of thing that they can't let go of. And, there are certain parts of my family, like his sister, and other, branches of the family that are just totally in Trump's corner. And I can't imagine them ever changing. I don't know what it would take, even when, the programs that he's championing are hurting our own family. My daughter's is a a research scientist, and her funding got pulled back by Trump. And so she's having to scramble and try to find another job. And, just with insurance, Medicaid, things like that, that are having an impact on people he knows and cares about. And it's like, shrug of the shoulders.
All right, thank you, Linda. Let's go now to Evelyn.
Well, I know the topic today was, can you hear me?
Yes.
The topic today are we ripe for the Boston Tea Party now? Is this our moment? And I tend to think that we don't have any representation anymore because the Republicans, if you look at the State of the Union, just stood up every time and supported Trump without question. And the Democrats' only voice was to sit down and not respond. So that's not representation to me. And I'm really disappointed in that because that should be a foundation of our democracy. And it isn't really anymore. So, and I just want to go back to another point with, I think that Linda made. I flipped to Fox News to just get the sense of what they're doing now. And they were putting negative messages out about the new primary Democrat in Texas,
James Tallarico. Yep.
And they said that he supports 6 kinds of sexual identities. And they really made it seem like he's not a man, like a real man. And I thought, I almost was thinking that some people would take that at face value. And, that's going to be, I think, their primary voice or message, that they're going to just denigrate anybody who's soft or thinking about soft kinds of things, because the man in all his masculinity is going to be the primary source. So that's just a word about Fox News and where they're coming from.
That senatorial candidate is a very strong Christian. He talks about his Christian faith, but he's very critical of the Christian nationalists.
Mm-hmm.
That they are not representative of what Jesus taught or Christian values at all. So he has a certain level of popularity. The other thing I know is that, I can't give you the exact numbers, but in these 2 primaries in Texas, the Republican primary and the Democratic primary, almost twice as many Democrats showed up to vote in the Democratic Party as showed up for the Republican primary. The Democratic primary then showed up for the Republican primary. That's another good indicator of what we can maybe expect coming forward. I don't know about people's rights being taken away to process their vote, but the enthusiasm and the energy level is there for the Democrats to step up and vote. And that certainly is a Boston Tea Party moment. For myself, I was so inspired by the people in Minnesota who stood up and got out and protested, 2 of them losing their lives, and there may be others we don't know about. But that kind of courage in those very freezing temperatures was just, said to me, what can we do? What can we do? It was inspiring to me.
I have Diane in the room.
Is it an open primary in Texas?
Texas is an open primary, and it's probable that a lot of Republicans who hate both Paxton and they don't like Cornyn much either crossed over and voted for Tallarico, which I think is a really good sign, because that might happen again in the general election. So it's possible, still a long shot, possible that we might actually turn Texas and get a Democratic senator. I mean, it's possible, because he ran a perfect campaign with restraint. He made no mistakes. Whatever he got in there early, he got with the right people. Latino vote turned out massively for him. And even if there were things that went wrong in Dallas County a little bit, even if all those votes had gone the other way, he still would have won handily. So I think we actually have a good shot at getting a Democrat in Texas.
Fantastic.
It was one we never get otherwise. We tried for since 1988.
So another item I want to bring to your attention, and maybe Frances can help me with this because she brought it to my attention. I don't know how many of you are familiar with The Friendly Atheist. He has a column, he has a blog. I wish I could tell you his name right now. I would call it up, but I don't want to get distracted doing research. Anyway, so he wrote an item like a week and a half ago about Marty Weinstein. You might remember Marty Weinstein is the head of the military, the MMRF, and he helps military. Mikey, thank you, Mikey Weinstein. He helps military who are non-religious or they're not Christian face discrimination in the military, and there's been a lot of that. So he wrote to the Friendly Atheist and told him that he had been, Mikey had been approached by a military commander, and he was approached by 15 soldiers who complained to him that some commanders were announcing to their troops that this is our Armageddon. That Frances, can you help me with this, because I don't have the article in front of me and your memory is always better than mine, if you're willing to speak to this. And so this war is being presented by some in the military as a religious war, and this is the focus of some of our military leaders. Frances, do you have the mic?
Yes. His name is Hemant Mehta, Mehta, the Friendly Atheist.
Right.
He's Mikey Weinstein was saying that he got this letter from one of the maybe lower officers saying that they are being told by their commander that this is Trump is doing this because in the name of Armageddon, because it's prophecy. And so the Friendly Atheist, who knows Mikey Weinstein, is concerned because this proclamation by Mikey Weinstein went viral very quickly. But he points out that even Snopes says it can't be corroborated. The Friendly Atheist, who knows Mikey Weinstein, called him and said, can you send the original email? Because what the concern is, the Friendly Atheist says every letter through the years seems to look similar from the complainant, if that's the right word. But anyway, so this would be a good topic one Sunday for critical thinking, because it's, I guess he's saying that it's easy to get on the bandwagon because there's so much fear and so much, I mean, it's a, can I say shit show? It just every day.
Sure.
And so I think what the Friendly Atheist is trying to say is, look, I'm not saying this didn't happen, that this person didn't go to Mikey Weinstein and say, my commander is saying this is in the name of Armageddon and prophecy. But he's saying we need to slow down and not have these things go viral with our help. If we can't back it up. Because the other thing he's saying is, what if Pete Hegseth decides to say that's not true and you have no proof? Does Mikey Weinstein have proof to bring? And so I guess for the Friendly Atheist, if this is a Boston Tea Party moment, he's saying, let's be cautious and make sure we have proof for the American people so that we don't look like, I won't use the word, but I have two words for the Fox News people regarding calling out our candidates for their sexuality. Lindsey Graham.
I don't, can you expand on that a little bit? I'm not quite sure I get it.
The reporting on the Armageddon thing has been a lot wider than the
Yeah.
friendly atheist and Mikey Weinstein. It's been in major newspapers and wire services, and it's been reports of several dozen commanders issuing these orders to their troops.
I had heard that too, Paul.
But apparently, those reports refer to Mikey Weinstein as the source. They're not quoting other sources,
Right.
is what the friendly atheist is saying.
Do you know?
That's not how I read it.
That's not how I read it too. I think there are other sources now, Francis.
But are going directly to major media.
Right. And so, the understanding is that these commanders are presenting Trump as the savior of America, and that this is a Christian, what's the word I'm not coming up with? It's a Christian, it's a Christian crusade.
Well, as part of defending Israel and all that entanglement.
Yeah, it's a Christian crusade, and it's Armageddon. It makes me think back to, fundamentalist Christians who believe in an afterlife and that they're going to be saved. And so they put their energies into the afterlife, and they're not too worried about what's happening here on earth. They're not too worried about what happens to the environment, because they're going to their paradise. And it isn't here. It's in their afterlife. So it's kind of the same thing, maybe? I don't know. I can see a relationship between those two things.
And they're not protecting Israel to protect the Jews.
Right.
They're protecting Israel because Jerusalem is the Holy Land for the Christians.
Good point, Paul.
Well, on a positive note, I think there were a lot of in the military that I read, the article I read, that when they heard their commander or whoever they were listening to about this and using Christ's name, there were a lot of, in this day and age, we can voice our opinion very quickly on social media. And there were a lot of these guys that just, and ladies that protested, said, this is not a professional military statement from a commander, and they let their voices known, which is, good, great. If you're sitting there listening to a commander, and, people are able to express their opinion that way. And they know when they're being duped. Hopefully a lot of people do. On a negative side, I find it horrific that the Congress has backed away from debating on this war. We're at a war, and they have not stepped up to their constitutional duty to say this is a war or not, and to not allow a president to make a war on his own volition. And they have backed away. And I find that really kind of horrible. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Does anybody else want to weigh in? No?
I have one quick comment based on something. I don't need the mic, Drew.
Okay.
I have one quick comment based on like something Drew said earlier on about how impressive the military can be, right? That we can make strikes, or that, the United States military can make strikes and do things that almost you're in awe of sometimes. And the flip side to that is that I heard, Trump had to pull together people to start building missiles faster, especially missile defense systems, because what we're learning now is like we're using $20 million missiles to try to shoot down $200,000 drones, right? And yeah, and the numbers just don't add up, and the number of drones that they're trying to shoot down. Maybe Iran was smart and just took the best punches that the Israel and the U.S. had to offer, and now they're going to strategically punch back with small munitions, nothing too impressive, but it'll get the job done. So that was just one thought I had when Drew mentioned that. It's like, now we're getting beat up by small stuff.
And not only that, we have a great military, but there's no strategy. There's no plan. What are they going to do? What's it for? What's the aftermath? We get 500, different answers from the administration,
Right,
depending on what they had for lunch that day.
That stuff's political. I always remember a movie I watched about the military. It was something to do, and I'd been involved in red flag operations and stuff, so I kind of got what he was saying, and people asking questions about, well, why is the military doing this and that? And the guy in the movie makes the point, politicians make the policy. We just enforce the policy.
Yeah,
we
right.
just enforce the policy.
One little phrase, and then I'm really done. The dog murderer is gone.
Yeah.
That killer is gone.
Sort of.
Made my day.
Yeah, she's in some other role, but maybe we don't even know what that role was. I didn't even understand what the role was when they said her new job. So,
Al Hall.
Since I was 18, I've been watching this country act like a dog chasing a car.
Mm-hmm.
The Vietnam War, they caught the car, didn't know what to do with it, had to back out. It's going on over and over. Now, Trump has done some aerial bombardment of Iran. He's not going to take over Iran with aerial bombardment. He's going to have to send in troops. Or is he going to nuke them? He's that stupid. Just a thought.
He's using some very threatening language right now. Can you pass the mic back to Francis, please? So this morning I was reading about, this, if they can't get the Straits of Hormuz open, so oil can start flowing, we're going to end up in a world recession, because this is going to impact major economic scenarios around the world and economies around the world. So I don't know how that's going to happen, because these insurance companies are refusing to insure these tankers going through the Gulf of Hormuz. And I don't know, I guess Trump made some mention about having our defense funds being used, but those are not adequate. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. Let's go to Gloria and then Francis. Gloria.
Oh, well, people have been talking about a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I just, the way I look at it, when you look at the way the Secretary of War talks, this is just about a show of force for its own sake, is the way it looks to me. Like, we're doing this because we can. We've got the ultimate bully pulpit. We're the world's bullies, and we're going to show you what bullies do when they can do it to the world. And that's just how it looks to me. That's why they have no rationale that sticks, that makes any sense. That's why they keep changing it every day, because they can't tell you the real reason they did it was just because they could. and that's pretty sad, and because the fallout is all over the world. But I did want to make a comment about what happened in Texas after Linda brought up what happened in Dallas County. Those are the kind of tactics they used in Jim Crow South. They would hold a Democratic primary and move the place, move the precinct location, so that Black people, however few, this is before the Voting Rights Act, Black people, however few of them were eligible and got registered to vote, wouldn't know where to go. So when I saw that come up, it was just all those red flags for, this is an old tactic. Tallarico's an interesting guy. I think they're really worried about him because he's young, he's white, he's attractive, and he's religious, right? So they're gonna really bombard him. But I heard him speak in the state legislature in Texas about cuts, because you were talking about this, cutting the property tax, right, which funds schools, and that they were using some other excuse to defund the public school system. You know, one of those cultural, sexual, whatever. I can't even remember what the issue was, one of those stupid issues, right? That they were using as a way to cut public funding for school systems. That's just a ruse. And he called it out. As a religious person, he called it out. And he said, that's a ruse. You're just trying to defund public education. And that's what you're trying to do here. And I'm opposed to it. And he talked about all this separation of church and state, because basically what they want is all private money going into education. So I think he's somebody that we should support. Yeah, but and he might win. And we don't know what Trump is going to do between Cornyn and Paxton. He doesn't like Cornyn. If he picks if all I can think of is that it would be Paxton would probably be easier to defeat than Cornyn. So that's my 2 bits on what some of the things that you have said. And I think we have to support those kind of candidates. There's several open seats. In addition to Iowa, there's Ohio. Sherrod Brown is trying to get his seat back in Ohio. I don't know how tough that will be. And there's going to be a lot of action, and there's going to be a lot of shenanigans around the election. There's no question about it. So fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah, really. Frances, you're next.
I am also in disbelief about the number of people who still say, I love what Trump is doing and he's my man. Because I know that a lot of these people have are facing the same things, we're facing. So for instance, they want to move the Individuals with Disability Act, the IDEA, which is what helps all the children who get exceptional student education, special education through the schools. They want to move that to health and out of the Department of Education. Why? Because they don't want to fund it. They want to put it way down on the roster as far as what they care about and want to put money into. So, and my own boss is an OT in the Martin County school system, and I don't know how she votes, but her husband is definitely a Trumper. And so that's number one. Number two, I'm an independent contractor, and I see children who get Medicaid through the state of Florida, obviously. And every 3 years, the state of Florida gets new bids on who can give them the most for the lease. Well, the most I put in quotes for the lease. Well, now we're having trouble getting paid for the kids we're seeing. So so cutting back on Medicare, Medicaid, what you don't hear is the silent families who end up not getting services, and they don't have the wherewithal to fight or have a Boston Tea Party moment. They just lose services. And so then their children don't get PT/OT speech in the home. And of course, the Republicans want them to go out and work and have to pay for daycare. It's like, this is a shit show I'm talking about. They throw everything at the wall. The people who can't speak up are the ones who suffer. One of my families worked a little bit too much, and they got a letter in the mail from Medicaid saying Medicaid was going to be cut, which means her child that I see won't get OT and speech for his autism. So it's happening all around us. And I really just hope all the Republicans who are getting effed over like the rest of us start to think, oh, wait a minute, maybe he didn't really care about us. Maybe DeSantis really doesn't care about us. I don't know. It's very upsetting, but I'm doing everything I can. The marching. I haven't come up with a letter to the editor yet because I need to calm myself when I do it. But it's just, and the gas, now I'm paying $3.50 a gallon when I was paying $2.80 something. and I use a lot of gas. So I see everything falling down around me, and I need this group a lot.
Thank you, Frances. Does anybody else like to comment? Hey, Richard. Would anybody else like to weigh in?
Got Al in the room.
I think it's a really great strategic move for the Republicans to raise gas prices in time for the election.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here, and thank you for contributing to this discussion. Sharing knowledge is one of the things I think we do best. And I think it helps all of us. And Frances says it's helped her, so that's a good thing. Maybe that's one of the most important things that we do together. All right, next week. Oh, does anybody have a humanist sharing moment? Al.
I do. We've talked a little bit about the military this morning in our discussions and things like that. And something that occurred this week that I picked up on with all of the things going on really hit home for me. And I thought about like back in my youth. So I was informed, or I heard on the news that the New Hampshire Air National Guard was activated, and that these guys were being shipped out, guys and gals, going to be shipped out to some place to do the job, to participate in these activities. Now, it hits home for me because I was a member of this unit. Now, anybody that I would have known or whatever is long since retired and gone. But it just hit home for me in the fact that when I joined the New Hampshire, I came out of the Air Force, and so I knew that life. Got my job in regular world, I used to call it, and then just joined the Guard because it's a part-time job. It's some benefits and things like that, and how in a moment's notice things change. I always had a mobility bag pack, they used to call it. Right, so that I could receive the phone call, I could show up to base, my bag, which had my toothbrush and my toothpaste and my underwear, got thrown on the airplane, and off I would go. And so that one just hit home for me, and that's my humanist moment, or whatever it is.
Thank you. You have no idea where they're going?
Well, that all just becomes part of the mission, and so the New Hampshire governor just said that they couldn't announce where. I mean, it's not like they're going to be on the ground going into Iran. It was an aerial refueling group, so they fly tankers. So they're just going to station them somewhere, probably safe, I would say. Yeah. That would be putting up tankers for refueling airplane, fighters and bombers going into Iran, kind of thing. So.
Alice, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up with this group, I have a sister in Seattle whose husband has Alzheimer's, and she has recently had back surgery, and my sister from Massachusetts is out trying to help her, and we've been having discussions. We're trying to find resources for my brother-in-law, Ralph. And I have had no experience with, this sort of thing. And Harriet, my other sister, hasn't either. And so I was just wondering if this group, has dealt with family and friends with Alzheimer's, and just how do you find the resources and what might be available just in general. If anybody has any ideas, I'd be very open to hearing them.
I would, first of all, maybe suggest Doug Scott. Doug Scott, I think, is going to be here shortly. He lives in Canada. I'll email him and give him your information. Of course, he's in Canada, so it's a little different level of services and source of services. But in terms, his wife died of Alzheimer's
Right. Yeah.
not too long ago, so that
Right.
might be somebody you would want to connect with.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any suggestions?
Right. Yeah.
I've
Just
got,
how do you find? Yeah. How do you find things? You know, we just haven't been real successful. Right.
Juanita,
Juanita.
and then
Have
Ed.
you contacted the Alzheimer's Association and your elderly community resources?
Francis, did you still?
They've tried like a daycare. Unfortunately, my brother-in-law doesn't think he needs it, although he's definitely got problems. You know, he's 86 and he wants to climb trees and he wants to, he doesn't know his wife's name, and it's true that, you know, I mean, he definitely needs help. So we're just kind of at a loss as
And
to
there
where
are,
to go.
yeah, you can get services to come into the home if you can afford that. Even just a couple of hours a day would be helpful to the caregiver.
Yeah.
But I mean, initially, I mean, it
It's
just
better-
deteriorates and you'll
Yeah.
have to find.
It's really something that's better approached from the local level in
Yeah.
the county or city where he lives.
Yeah,
Right.
oh yeah, definitely, yeah. But you know, and they are working hard to try to find it there, but I so far, other than the daycare thing, is they've tried home health care, and nobody has really been. My sister is kind of a picky, she does everything herself, and you know, and she now with her back surgery, she's a little bit limited, but they just haven't found anybody that's worked, you know, so
They don't really need specialized care, but they will wander and get into trouble
Yeah.
and fall
Yeah.
down. And that's the kind of
Yes.
protection initially you have to get, and it can be a
Yeah.
teenager. I mean,
But also
Yeah.
sometimes be combative in later stages.
it
Because
depends on the stage. It just
Yeah.
sounds.
Yeah, he's a very social person, and you know, just a nice guy, you know. He's always, and so but
Might be more manageable
Yeah.
then, right?
Yeah,
I
right,
have
yeah.
a friend who
Um,
lives in Pennsylvania who was suffering from dementia, that it was a form of Alzheimer's, and he was like the sweetest guy you would ever know. And he's was a snowbird, so that's how I know I'm coming down here. But his wife had to actually put him in a home because he became very combative. He punched her, which I would never have dreamed that would ever happen. But it's an aspect of the disease. Ed, you had
Yeah.
your hand up as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I may have missed it if Alice said it. If he's a veteran, check with the VA.
And
Okay,
also,
I don't believe he is. I'm not aware of a service. Yeah.
Mary, did you want to say something?
I was just gonna say locally, the Office on Aging, there's probably a state office and maybe even regional or local offices. They often have case managers that kind of help people through that process. So that might be someplace to start.
Right.
I could send you more resources, Alice, if you give me your email or something, or
Right,
let
yeah, I can put it in the,
Joanne.
I can put it in the chat maybe, or.
Yeah, I better do it before we hang up because otherwise it's lost. Or I can
Right,
always send your email to Juanita. I'll do
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Great.
Yeah.
I
Thanks.
have Drew in the room.
Just a humanist sharing moment. This past Monday, I think 4 humanists spent 3 hours up there at the food bank, and apparently it wasn't very hard at all, according to Tony. It was kind of fun and easy, and he enjoyed it. And that's for Tony. That's pretty amazing.
Great.
Thanks, Drew. Anybody else? All right. So Wednesday night we have our open discussion, open mic, any topic that's from 7 to 8, Zoom only. And next week we will have the Black Practice of Disbelief, which is going to be a video with Professor and Dr. Anthony Finn, professor at Rice University, and he's going to. The video discusses the principles, history, and communities of Black non-believers. So I hope you will tune in for that. My closing words are taken in part from Barack Obama's comments at the remembrance ceremony of Jesse Jackson that was held on Friday. Some of you may have seen it, but these were his words. We are living in a time when it can be hard to hope. Each day we wake up to some new assault on our democratic institutions, another setback to the idea of the rule of law, an offense to common decency. Every day you wake up to things you just didn't think were possible. Each day we're told by those in high office to fear each other and to turn on each other, and that some Americans count more than others, and that some don't even count at all. Everywhere we see greed and bigotry being celebrated, and bullying and mockery masquerading as strength. We see science and expertise denigrated, while ignorance and dishonesty and cruelty and corruption are reaping untold rewards. Every single day we see that, and it's hard to hope in these moments. So it may be tempting to get discouraged, to give in to cynicism. It may be tempting for some to compromise with power and grab what you can get, or even for good people to maybe just put your head down and wait for the storm to pass. But Jackson's life inspires us to take a harder path. His voice calls on each of us to be heralds of change, to be messengers of hope. Wherever we have a chance to make an impact, whether it's in our own school, or our workplaces, or our neighborhoods, or our cities, not for fame, not for glory, or because success is guaranteed, but because it gives our life purpose. That's it for this Sunday, everybody. Thanks for being there. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here for each other. I appreciate you all very much. And I especially appreciate Alex, because he gives me a break by going down.
And it all worked.
And Alice, I hope you have a feeling of purpose, because you certainly do.
You're here.
Take care, everybody.
Have a good one.
Take care and have a great Sunday. Try to think positive. That's what we want to do.